Hello everybody, I'm very happy to be here with Father Joe McVeigh to give a little insight onto mission. I was ordained 40 years ago, but before ordination I was in Sierra Leone in West Africa doing a 2-year stint on mission. And after the end of the 2 years I was sort of disillusioned about the whole idea of mission, because I felt, am I bringing the Church of Ireland out to these people who have a totally different culture and a different way of looking at life, etc., etc. It's only when I actually went and studied missiology in London after coming back from Sierra Leone that I got a better insight that I'm not, or nobody is bringing God into Africa or bringing the Church into Africa as they have experienced it in their youth. What we are doing is walking with people and helping people to discover where God is as a God as Father, where God is with them in their lives. How do we bring the understanding of who Jesus is and what Jesus' message is for them in their lives and how it enhances and advances their lives. After that initial experience of missiology, in fact, I would like to share a little bit also about when I was working in London before heading back out to Africa. One young English woman said to me, "What right have you to go to another country and tell people how to live their lives?" So rather than answering her, I asked her a question. I said, what right had Jesus Christ to come here on earth and tell us how to live our lives? In fact, I said Jesus didn't come to tell us how to live our lives, but to show us how God is operating in our lives, how God the Father is as a compassionate Father and wants all of us to have a deeper understanding of our own value and the value of each other. And that was an insight that I got through my missiology. Presently, I am down working in a place called South Sudan. And South Sudan got its independence 10 years ago. And the people are struggling to come to terms with building a new country. Unfortunately, like Ireland, when it got independent, they had a civil war, and so South Sudan is having a civil war, and thank God it's more or less ending. And the church has been at the heart of the independence movement for South Sudan, and the young people, they have a different experience of church there than we have actually here in Ireland at this present time. Their experience of church is a church that is dynamic, a church that is into education and development, and a church that is hopefully helping the people to move forward and experience something new rather than violence and disunity. We are doing a lot of work with young people. So it's a dynamic church, and I'm blessed to be able to have the energy even at this time to go back now and continue to work with that young church. Some time ago, so what is the experience then of mission in Ireland, or where is Ireland in terms of mission, or how do I see it in terms of mission? Now, I was down in Glendalough and Glencolumcille recently, and reflecting on mission in terms of these places that were the centre of mission for Europe, not only for Ireland, but for Europe for centuries, and influenced what was happening in Europe and all over. We saw the dynamic type of church that emerged from these centres, but now they are in ruins. And I would feel that this beautiful cathedral that we are sitting in here now, and many of the churches around Ireland, will go through that same dynamic of death that Glencolumcille and Glendalough have gone through. But just as Glendalough and Glencolumcille and the other centres of Christianity became ruins, something new emerged from it. And I believe also that something new will also emerge from this time of dying that we are in regards to the structural church of Europe. The institutional church is going through a phase of dying, but something new always emerges, because we know the Lord said He is always with us. I was quite surprised this year coming home that two of my nephews at two different times invited me out for a meal with them, and they were saying that they have started to use an app about meditation, that they are moving into this thing of using meditation now to help them in their lives. And that for me is the new phase, the new way that the Trinity is encompassing our lives. I feel that in some ways we have lived a type of pagan Christianity, in that we have a static understanding of God, where God is a dynamic God. God is the God of the Trinity. And we have been more or less having this thing that God the Father is up there, and we worship that God the Father. But where God is energy, God is flow, God is moving. I experience God more profoundly when I'm at home with my nephew and his girlfriend, who are living in the home house. I get a sense of the love that is between them. I get a sense of the caring, of the compassion, and of the honesty and integrity that is there. And I think that's what we need to build up, to be able to tune into it and help the young people to use the technology that they're into at this present time, to help to use that technology, as Pope Francis is doing, to bring people into a different awareness of how God is interacting in their lives.
Do you still need support?
Obviously we still need support. When at one stage there was over 500 of us Irish Puritans in Africa, Irish Puritans in Africa. Now there's only 4 of us left. Myself being one of them. So we have handed over to the young African church. We have many Irish Puritans, and in fact at this time today in Tanzania, our congregation is meeting. We meet once every 8 years as a congregation. Because of the pandemic we weren't able to meet last year when we were supposed to meet. And so they're meeting in a place called Bagamoyo, which was the place where slaves were sold from Africa to the New World, America and England at that time. And Bagamoyo means leave your heart behind. So it's a very profound area and a place for us Puritans. But it's nearly all young African missionaries who are meeting. The European time is ending, but the African missionaries, the African priests, bishops and cardinals are coming together, and they are looking at where mission is in Africa, and of course where mission is in Europe. One of the reasons that the African missionaries still want people like myself is to help them to find the sources of income needed in order to continue the work that has been started by the European missionaries. Work like, building of schools, educational centres, hospitals, clinics, etc., etc. And so we would be hopeful that the structures that are still around, and I know they are also going through this process of decay, but the structures that are still there can be channeled to help the young African missionaries who move from country to country. Most of the missionaries I work with, the other Puritans I'm working with, 2 are from Kenya, 1 from Tanzania, and 1 from Sierra Leone. All African missionaries now in South Sudan. Whatever support is available, and whatever way we as an Irish church, how we can continue to help will be great and is still needed.
Pope Francis talks about we're all missionaries. He tries to put that across, that all of us who are baptized are missionaries. We have a special responsibility to preach the gospel and be witnesses. How do you respond?
Well, I like you know, Pope Francis has great mission, has vision of mission, but it's the other Francis that he takes his name from, Francis, who had probably the best saying about living our mission when he said, "Preach the gospel at all times, and if necessary, use words." You know, that it's our lifestyle now is where we have to witness how we can treat each other, how we are not too negative. I think there's too much negativity around. How can we Christians be positive? That is how we live our baptism today. The positivity. Don't be pessimistic. I know we can be very taken in and down about climate change, etc., and so many problems as we see worldwide.
Scandals in the church.
Yeah, scandals in the church, of course, yes. And Pope Francis, maybe more than anybody else, has tried to deal with these issues. And to always remember that the Spirit is working. The Spirit is alive, and if I would also say, and this is quite radical and quite maybe disturbing. You see, when Jesus started his mission, he went out into the desert, and before him, John the Baptist went out into the desert. There is no institutions in the desert. There is no going to church in the desert or even synagogues. Our young people have moved out into the desert. They've moved away from the institutions. How are we going to help them to find, as Jesus did? Jesus brought people out into the desert, because it says in Luke and Mark's Gospel, all the people of Judea, all the people of the temple were going out to John in the desert. The people of the temple, there were over 2,000 priests in the temple. And why were all these people? What were they looking for? They had an institution. They had their religion. They had their Jewish religion. So why were they moving out into the desert? What was being offered that was new by Jesus and by John? And that is the question. What are your people searching for? How do we bring them back around like Jesus did, back to Jerusalem? Because this is where Mark ends his gospel too, in Jerusalem again, where Jesus was crucified. So how do we bring our young people back into a way of knowing that they need systems too. They need ways to what would I say? To come together, to have blessings for times of marriage, for times of death. They need rituals, is the word I'm looking for. They need rituals.
So it's got to be a time of creativity then from now on.
Or a time of creativity. And we are no longer fathers, most of us. We are grandfathers. So we don't be calling us Father Joe or Father John. Call us Grandfather Joe or Grandfather John. Because many young people, I think today, experience church at home when they come home for the Sunday lunch. It's where that love is, where that dynamic flow of the Trinity is found with the fathers, the grandfathers, and the grandmothers. And so we have a role to play. Don't feel that just because we're old, we don't have a role to play. In fact, I would say we have a more important role maybe than ever as elder statesmen and women to play a role in helping our young people to see the warmth of the love that can come from us who are going to church still and who are getting something from church, especially through the Eucharist, that we have something deep in our lives and it can touch them. And this is where our baptism comes through, as you were asking, Joe. This is where the baptism comes through in relation to giving something to the younger generation.
Thank you, John. Father John, thank you for such an inspiring interview, for your positivity and also for your challenge. And I wish you well now as you return to Africa on Tuesday. May God bless you on your journey.